Hi everyone, welcome back to Learn and Build Web Application using ASP.NET MVC and Code First Entity Framework video series. In this lab 10 video, we're going to see about what is partial view and what are all the advantages of using this partial view. And also we're going to see what are all the different mechanisms or ways of rendering this partial view. And also we're going to compare and see, or we will see the differences between at HTML.partial view method and HTML.renderPartial view method. And also we're going to see compare or differences between HTML.action versus HTML.renderAction. I will be covering this topic along with a small demos. So these are all the topics that I'm going to cover in this lab 10 video. Okay, so let's begin with what is partial view. Partial view is just nothing but like a user control page which is present in the web forms. Okay, so this partial view is mainly used for code reusability purpose, and also this partial view helps us to apply a drive principle, which is nothing but a don't repeat yourself. So we can remove the redundant code by creating a partial view, and we can render this partial view wherever required. Okay, so partial view is just nothing but which is just nothing but like a user control pages in ASP.NET web forms that is mainly used for code reusability. Okay, partial view enables you to define a view that will be rendered inside a parent view. Okay, so partial view, which is nothing but like a child view, which will you will be creating, and you will be rendering this child view inside a parent view. Okay, so let us see with the example how we can create a partial view and how we can render this partial view. Okay, so let's go to the application and see. Okay, now let me tell you one thing. In our application, we have two layout pages where one is layout.cshtml and layout.admin.cshtml. Okay, let's do one thing. You can see this footer is defined over here in this layout page also, and here in this layout page also. So let us uh, create one partial view and define this footer inside the partial view and render that partial view inside both of this both of these layout pages. So this will remove the redundant code, and using this we can apply a drive principle, that is don't repeat yourself. Okay, so we're going to implement that principle. So let us create one partial view. So you can go to the shared folder and create click on add and create a view. So here you give the name of the partial view. Okay, for partial view it's always a good practices to use underscore. Okay, it's not compulsory, but for partial view it's always a good practice if you mention it underscore, so that you will know the differences between the partial view and the main parent view. So let's give the name of the view. So here no need to create any strongly typed view, and since only markup footer is will be present in this view, and also uh, we have to enable this create as partial view. So this will disable the layout or master page, because for partial view no master page is required. Okay, let us click on add. So partial view page has been created. Now let's add a code, whatever the one which we required. So I will be adding this footer code inside this partial view. So I'll remove this footer from this page also. So I'm removing the redundant code which is present in both the layout pages. So let me run the application and see. Okay, so here you can see there is no footer which is defined in this master page. And also let's go to the other master page and also see over there. So here also you can see there is no footer which is defined in this master page, because we have not rendered in this both of these layout pages. So let's render this partial view, which is footer.cshtml in this layout page. So for that we have to use at html.partial or render partial. Okay, so here I can use this way, or also you can define this footer.cs HTML over here. Okay, so I can render in this way. You can see same thing I will copy to this layout page also. So now let me refresh the page and see. So now we should be able to see the footer here. Okay, so you can see this footer over here, which is defined datetime.now.here. So same thing applies to layout admin.cs HTML also. Refresh the page and see. Okay, so we can see the footer right now in both of the layout pages. Okay, so this is a simple example of how to create a partial view and how to render the partial view. Okay, so now let's see the next point. Partial view can be used in multiple views where we need the same logic, and it helps us to remove the redundant code. Okay, so here we have already seen where there was redundant code which was present, that is footer, in both of the layout pages. So we removed that and created a partial view. Okay, so partial view helps us to develop responsive UI. Okay, so actually if you can also create a partial view for developing a responsive UI, where on if you want to update some part of the page, so what you can do is you can just create a partial view, and on click of some certain buttons, on click of certain event handling things, you can call that partial view using Ajax functionality. So what this makes is actually it allows you to update the part of the page. So this helps us to, instead of updating the whole page, it allows you to update the part of the page. So by this we can say it allows us to develop a responsive UI. Okay, so partial view helps us to develop a responsive UI, and file extensions for partial view depends on the view engine and the programming languages. Okay, so for example, if you are using C# language, then for Razor View Engine .cs HTML will be the file extension, and for ASPX engine, ASPX View Engine, it will be .ascx as the extension. Okay, for Visual Basics .vb HTML. Okay, so this is about partial view, and if I want to say what are all the advantages of using this partial view is like, so partial view, it helps us to it's just like a user control page where you can create a partial view, and it helps us to it helps for it is used for code reusability purpose, where you can reuse the code by creating a partial view. And also one more big advantage of using this partial view is it helps us to design a more responsive UI. Okay, so this is about partial view, and these are all the advantages of partial view. Okay. Okay, now let us see the differences or comparison between using at HTML dot partial method versus at HTML dot render partial method. Okay, so in our previous example, we have seen how can we use at HTML dot partial method for rendering the partial view. So at HTML dot partial method is used to render the partial view in a view page. So syntax is we have also seen. So this is a syntax which we used to render the partial view. And at HTML.render partial method is also used to render the partial view in the view page. The syntax is slightly different from the partial view. Okay, let us see. Let us render the partial view using render partial method. So for this, the syntax is a slight little change because here the partial view will be directly rendered into the output stream. So for this, we have to put semicolon here. So this is admin page. So let's go to the admin page, refresh it and check it. So here you are able to see this footer. So using render partial method also we are able to render the partial view. So what is the differences between using this HTML.partial or HTML.render partial? Okay, so the main difference is here you can see that HTML dot partial method returns MVC HTML string. Okay, so it returns MVC HTML string, whereas HTML dot render partial method returns void. Okay, so the HTML dot partial method which returns MVC HTML string, so this can be assigned to some certain variables, and if we want to perform any manipulations, then we can do certain manipulations, and also we can also return it as return it from a we can return this partial view from a function. Okay, so the main thing in HTML.partial is if you want to perform any manipulations of this partial view, we can do certain manipulations in HTML.partial, whereas compared to HTML.underPartial, we cannot do any manipulations over here because the return type is void, and the output the partial view will be directly returned to the output stream in the case of HTML.renderPartial method. Okay, so this is difference which you can see. And um, coming to the performance, at HTML.partial method will be slower in loading. Okay, so when compared to at HTML.renderPartial, since it will be assigned to some variable and then used. If it is assigned to certain variable and used, then at HTML.partial might be little slower when compared to at HTML.renderPartial. So at HTML.renderPartial will be faster in loading compared to at HTML.partial. So the usage of we have to use at HTML.renderPartial whenever there will be no change in the view page. So we can go with whenever there is no change, then we can go with that HTML.render page. Sorry, at HTML.renderPartial method. Okay, and also this both of these are very simple to use, and no need to create any action method. We have seen this footer is which is just a markup, so we have not created any action method for rendering this partial view. So and also partial method is used, this partial method is used when displaying data is present in the corresponding view model only. Okay, so if the partial method will be used when the displaying data is present in the corresponding view model, because action method is also not present, or we have not created any action method, we are directly rendering the partial view. So this is about the comparison or the differences between the HTML.partial versus HTML.renderPartial. Now we will see what is the differences or the comparison between using at HTML.action method versus at HTML.renderAction method for rendering the partial view. Okay, so both of these methods is used to render the partial view on the view page. Okay, so here you can see this is the syntax which is used for at HTML.action method, and this is the syntax for at HTML.renderAction method. Okay, so now let us see what is the differences between these two methods, which is this the differences are very much similar to the uh, previous slide which I showed, that at HTML.action method returns MVC HTML string which can be assigned to variable and manipulate it if required, or return it from a function, whereas at HTML.renderAction method returns void and the output will be directly returned to the output stream. So coming to the performance, at HTML.action will be slower in loading when compared to that HTML.renderAction if it is assigned to some variables and used. So at HTML.renderPartial will be faster. Okay, so now let us see what is the differences between at HTML.action versus at HTML.renderAction versus at HTML.partial versus at HTML.renderPartial. Okay, so now so far we have seen for at HTML.partial and at HTML.renderPartial we have not created any action method. Okay, whereas say suppose you have created some action method and you are returning certain data from the action method, and you want to return certain partial view in this action method, then we have to use either one of this either h at html.action bus or at html.renderAction method. So if you don't have any action method, So in that case, you can go with partial or at HTML.RenderPartial method. Okay, so whenever the child action method is required for then child action method is required, then we have to use uh, uh, action or render action method for rendering the partial view. Okay. Okay, now we'll see what is the differences or comparison between at HTML.action method versus at HTML.renderAction method. Okay, so both of these methods are used to render the partial view in the view page. You can see the syntax also, which is pretty much same as the previous example which we have seen. But here you're gonna specify what is a particular action method name and what is a particular controller method name which you wanna you wanna call and render the partial view. So if you want to use this either of these two methods, then what you have to do is you have to have the action method for it. Okay, so this is one of the differences between using these methods and this partial render methods. Okay, suppose you want to render the partial view along with the data by calling to a particular action method. Okay, so then we can go with this at html.action or the render action method. So you can see this fourth point. Whenever for this method, child action method is required for rendering the partial view. That is, action method is required for rendering the whenever there is action method is present, and if you want to render the partial view from via action method, then you need to call this methods from the view. Okay, and also this HTML dot action methods and render action methods is useful when displaying the data in the partial view, which is independent from the corresponding view model. Okay, actually you can actually from the parent view view model in the sense from the parent view it should be independent from uh, the data which is present in the parent view, and here it will be providing its own data that is from that is passing the data from the action method and rendering it in the partial view. Okay, so these are all the differences, or these are all the comparisons that are present in all the four mechanisms that are used for rendering the partial view. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please do subscribe to my channel for watching more videos. Thank you.